You ready? Yo, this one goes out to Prince Paul, my man Fuquan, the gatekeeper, Prince Rakeem, and last but not least, the Grim Reaper.
As your soul enters the next stage, reality becomes obsolete. You have nothing to fear, nothing to fear. Walking in the shadows, you realize that life is nothing but a form of animated death. And to my right is the one that they call the Grim Reaper, the Grim Reaper.
Yo. Once again, we're back with another edition of the Wu-Tang Podcast, a Channel 10 podcast production. And it is I, the almighty AR, alongside
God Superior.
And we're back with another exciting edition. We're going to break down and, just discuss our thoughts and feelings on the Gravediggaz 6 Feet Deep, aka Niggamortis. But before we get into that, man, what do you have going on, man? Plug whatever you have going on.
As of now, I have an EP out entitled Chorus. You can go ahead and cop that. You can listen to it on Tidal, Apple Music, wherever you stream at. Also, you can get it on iTunes. You can buy it on Bandcamp and whatnot. And then also, you can check me out on Twitter at God Superior. And you can also check out SingGodSuperior.com for any updates on different things that I have going on in the podcast atmosphere, as well as in the music atmosphere.
That's what's up. And as always, you can check me out at thealmightyar.com. Right now I have a Baltimore club music project out called Polyrhythms. You can get it wherever you get your music from. If you want to support me directly, you can get it from 410musicfactory.com. Yeah, as always, channel10podcast.com. Make sure you check out all of our episodes there and rate, subscribe, comment on the Wu-Tang Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, and the Channel 10 Podcast. And, yeah, man, we got a lot going on here. So, excuse me. One thing that I wanted to, mention is, I'm gonna give a shout out to Hip Hop Golden Age for showing us support. Make sure you check out hiphopgoldenage.com. They are a great, website that breaks down exactly what it's called, Golden Age Hip Hop. And I want to mention everything and nothing. I left a comment on our last episode regarding Ghostface. I think we mentioned something about, is he on Method Man's first album or something like that, and he was like, Ghostface wasn't on Method Man's first album. So, thanks for listening and commenting, and please continue to do so. And yeah, so Gravediggaz 6 Feet Deep. Now you had listened to this album before, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was one of those albums that I had always been meaning to get to, but just never did. And personally, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it?
It's a cool album. But even when I did listen to it, like way back when, it was never like one of my favorite albums. Like there are like songs on there that I like a lot, and then other songs I'm like, it's cool. And I think the main reason why that is because, I know I may get killed for this, but I just don't, although like the song, all the songs in there are good, but like as an album altogether, I just think that it doesn't exactly, all of them don't like go together per se. So, you have like your super dark songs like, Diary of a Madman, and I think, what is it called, 1-800 Suicide, and all these other kinds of darker songs. And then I think other songs on there, they just tend to be, a bit more laid back.
Yeah, I will say this album wasn't what I was expecting it to be. Like, I thought that it was going to be some type of over-the-top, corny thing, and I thought that it was going to be like straight up, like a necro album, and it wasn't really like that. Like, some of the songs might have had like a horrorcore type hook, and then on the verses, they're talking about some 5% stuff or some other type of stuff, and they might throw a little bit of horrorcore in there, but it didn't seem all the way straight horrorcore to me,
I mean, yeah, I don't really see this as like a horrorcore album, honestly. I mean, you got Gangsta Nip, you have 3 6 Mafia, Lord Infamous, and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, I see Flatliners as horrorcore. I don't really see it. I mean, because
that was Russell Simmons' nephew, right?
Yeah. And I think the term horrorcore kind of came out around that time, whatever like that, when it became a bit more commercialized or whatever like that. But I don't know. I mean, I guess 2 Cups of Blood, and certain things that that Poetic says on here.
Yeah. Now, I guess this album, it was successful, relatively successful for the time. And the interesting thing is, this album, the group itself. So, Gravediggaz, is made up of a bunch of people who, at some point or another, were signed to, different labels like Tommy Boy. I think each member had been signed to Tommy Boy at one point, and then RZA, he, as we discussed on our second episode, he previously had a deal and had an album out under the name Prince Rakeem, and then you had Fruit Quan and what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Prince Paul.
Prince Paul,
who were part of Stetsasonic, but you have all these people who didn't get the success that they wanted at the time out of the music industry, and so they all got together, and almost like a D12 type situation, they all came up with different names for themselves for this theme, and kind of reinvented themselves. And then when they put this album together, they went around and shopped it, and nobody wanted it. So then I guess maybe RZA wanted to go ahead and do the Wu-Tang thing, and then after Wu-Tang's album first came out, that's when shortly after that, this album, 6 Feet Deep, was picked up by G Street Records, and I guess it kind of was able to get some buzz and love off of the Wu-Tang, success. And the album was originally called Niggamortis, and I think the European version, some of them still have that title.
Yeah, and G Street is also the album the label that released RZA's first Bobby Digital album in '98.
I didn't know that. Now the production, I think I was mostly surprised by the production on this album. I really liked a lot of the way that they did some of the samples, and it's mostly produced by Prince Paul, and RZA did some production as well. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, did True Master do some on this one?
I don't think so. I think
that might have been a later one.
Yeah, that was the second one.
Okay. But some of the it's funny because some of the samples I've heard on other songs and things before, but to hear them just like kind of with these raw drums, with these guys experimenting with different flows and saying all this crazy stuff, was pretty dope.
Yeah, it was. And I think the standout on this album is Poetic.
Yeah.
With his flow, and unfortunately he passed away too soon, but after he passed, and other people started looking back on his legacy, particularly with the Gravediggaz and this album in particular.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this album to me doesn't get mentioned a lot, but I can see influences in different people. So when I think about like Camuteo, kind of reminds me of Poetic a little bit. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking that maybe about like 5 minutes ago. It didn't come to my mind, and then you just said it. Especially with his flow and like what Camuteo did on Table Scraps, which is Megahertz's first album that came out that RJD2 did most of the production on.
Yeah, and other elements like like the alter ego aspect of it. So RZA was the Resurrector, and then you had other group members who took other names to go with the theme, and that kind of reminded me of other groups that have done the same thing. And then just kind of jumping off Horrorcore for other people to do it and kind of take it to a whole nother level was pretty interesting. And then it seemed like they hit harder with the 5% stuff, even more so than 36 Chambers did. Like there was one rhyme on here. It said something like, they're killing a lot of devils on this album, and a lot of devils get slain. Cities get destroyed, like Sodom and Gomorrah. And somebody on here, I forget who it was, but I was just listening to it, and they hate crackers.
Oh yeah.
But it's really interesting some of the references that they use in this album, and it makes me wonder like how they were able to know about so much stuff pre-internet.
Well, I guess you had encyclopedias. I don't know.
Yeah, it was deep in the books. It's just like so much stuff that they talk about, is kind of coming to the forefront now, but it's like they were up on it back in 91 and things like that. So I thought that was another interesting thing too. And then Killer Priest was on here.
Yeah.
On the Graveyard Chamber, and I think, was this his first appearance?
I don't know, because who knows when Bible came out, well, when it was recorded.
That's true.
But Liquid Source came out in 95. This came out in 94, right? Liquid Source came out in 95.
Yeah, but this was recorded in like 91.
Yeah, 91. Well, who knows? Maybe one day Killer Priest can come on and tell us.
Yeah. Shout out to Killer Priest.
I wonder if there was some story that Killer Priest was supposed to be like an original Gravedigger member or something like that. The same thing with Wu-Tang.
I was listening to something recently, and I was looking for this episode. It was somebody who was supposed to be a part of the Gravediggaz. I want to say Master Ace, but it wasn't him.
He would be a perfect specimen, or would have been for the time.
Yeah, it was somebody. Let me see. I think it was. I think it was Daddy O Stetso. He was on the Combat Jack show, and I think he said something about he after I guess things didn't go so well with whatever label that was, it's escaping my mind right now, but when they were with RZA, what was it, Tommy Boy? Gotta get my facts together. That's a Sonic. They were on, I want to say Tommy Boy, but if it wasn't Tommy Boy, it was okay, it was Tommy Boy. So yeah, when they when things didn't go right or whatever with their situation, I think Daddy-O said he was walking down the street one day and saw all of the members of Gravediggaz like all together sitting in some type of restaurant, some type of coffee house or something. And he kind of looked at it funny, like, he didn't get invited or something like that, and then didn't really think anything of it. And then next thing you know, it's the Gravediggaz. But
oh yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows who else was supposed to be a part of Gravediggaz, especially the way Prince Paul felt. And he also on the Combat Jack show, he goes into that quite a bit, how he had what was it called, Doo-Doo Records or some shit.
Yeah. And I think RZA wanted to be signed to Doo-Doo Records. I think it was DOODEW Records. And that was after RZA left. He was trying to get signed to that label. And one thing that I get from that whole story is and this is something that I've talked about before on the Channel 10 podcast, is reinventing yourself. And a lot of the most successful artists try really hard, and then it doesn't work, and then they reinvent themselves, maybe create a new identity or a new name, and come out again, and then it doesn't work, and they might try it one or two more times until it does work. So RZA goes from Prince Rakeem to RZA Rector to finally the RZA, then Bobby Digital, and it's like, just keep reinventing yourself with a different sound, and things can work out for you.
Yeah, and now currently RZA is Bobby Stills.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting album, out to say the least, the Banks and Stills project. But I don't know. See, but now it gets kind of confusing because he refers to himself as Bobby sometimes on the album, and I don't know if he means Bobby Stills or if he means Bobby Digital, or is Bobby Stills and Bobby Digital like the same person?
That's a good question. I mean, who knows? RZA might not even know.
I mean, probably doesn't, but I think you really don't really see Bobby Stills. You just see, like, Bobby Stills came up on Liquid Swords on that long intro for Life of a Drug Dealer.
Yeah. I mean, people just flip different names and slangs and everything, so it's probably the same person.
When we gonna see Noodles?
That was Master Killer.
Yeah. When we gonna see him? I think we only saw Noodles on the. But wasn't he on like the Wu-Tang video game?
Yeah, I think so. Or maybe he was on Master Killer. I don't know where I first even heard of Noodles. I don't know. I'm about to, let me see. I think that came into being on if I'm not mistaken, Raekwon. When everybody got their Gambino names and all of that, I think that's when he took that on around the Only Built for Cuban Links time. And like, yeah, I guess to fit into that whole mafioso Gambino theme. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to this album, I was pleasantly surprised. Like I said, I thought that it was going to be something real corny, maybe with some whack beats, and it was really interesting. Like, all three of these guys have a different, not three, why I say three, all of these MCs have different flows, and they play around with the words in different ways. Sometimes they go off beat, come back on. Sometimes they do a standard flow, they play with their voices. They say some wild, interesting, entertaining things, and the beats are just pretty ill. And you know, there's like a Wu-Tang influence with the songs that RZA added production to. But then, you know, it's just a dope hip hop sound with the Prince Paul type of situation and the way he uses his drums. So, you know, I'm not mad at this. I'm not mad at it at all, and I'm glad that, you know, finally through this podcast I actually took the time to listen to it.
Yeah, and you know, I think Prince Paul is like really slept on as a producer, man. Like, and you know, another interesting thing about, like, I think all these people, you know, is that they've kind of stayed away from the mainstream. So, you know, up to Poetic's death, he was always against the mainstream. Seems like Fruit One has kind of been like the same way. Prince Paul, for the most part, too, in his own way, like doing all these different, like, kind of indie side projects.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess you could say, you could make an argument for RZA also, although even after this he went on to have a top 40 hit with Gravel Pit in France. I
mean, he's in the movie. I mean, he's a movie star now.
Well, I mean, well, yeah, but I'm just saying, you know, even, well, I guess just like when it comes to commercial rap.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so I think that's also something interesting, that all of them, for the most part, have kind of stayed underground in a way. Well, at least when it comes to RZA, I guess we can kind of say that. You know, his albums have kind of always stayed in the underground up to a point.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what allows him to be so creative and, you know, cultivate that that hardcore fan base. You know, they're just staying true and, you know, just playing with the music, you know, just having a good time with it, and still hitting some serious topics. Like, even on this, the dude, I forget what song it was, but he told a whole story about, you know, a girl getting molested by her stepfather, and then at the end, she took an axe and chopped his penis 40 times. And like, it was real serious and deep. And I'm like, oh man, he's storytelling right here. And I was like, this isn't really horrorcore, but it's kind of ill. And then in the end, it got real horrorcore. So I was like, okay. So it kind of tied the fantasy movie type of element into, you know, some real type of stories that are going on out here. And so I think that they did kind of use the whole horrorcore aspect of it and the whole theme. You know, some of it is a bit cartoonish, but then they also brought it back with, you know, some real life type stuff as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's, well, I mean, it's certainly not horrorcore that we know of today.
Yeah, it's not Necro, but, you know, I guess it was a pioneering effort, and you know, I'm glad it exists and that, you know, I got to hear it. So that's my take on it. Make sure you check that out. Gravediggaz, 6 Feet Deep, or if you're in Europe, Niggamortis.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for this album. Hope you guys enjoyed our brief discussion on the Gravediggaz project. You know, since RZA is involved, you know, we had to discuss it on the Wu-Tang podcast, and you know, keep rocking with us, and we'll keep you know, looking into these albums and delivering you this content.
Word.
Rate, subscribe, comment, favorite on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts, Google Play Music and all that. And make sure you check out WuTangPodcast.com. And is that it?
That's it.
Alright, we out. Peace.
Peace.